Most people think that energy healing works because the healer is gifted, intuitive, connected to something most people can't access. And honestly, I understand why people think that, because I used to, yeah. But after 20 years in this work, supporting hundreds of thousands of people through healing, transformation, and spiritual awakening, I can tell you something is going to reframe everything you think you know about energy healing. It isn't random. Energy healing follows patterns. It's precise, it's repeatable, and it's mappable patterns. And once you understand the pattern underneath the human hologram, healing stops being something mysterious that happens to you. And it starts becoming something that you can understand, predict, and actually work with. And that's exactly what this video is about. Yeah, in this video, I'm going to explain what hologram healing actually is, not the woo-woo version, the real one. I'm going to show you why some healing sessions create massive shifts and others do absolutely nothing. And I'm going to give you the energetic pattern underneath the whole system that most practitioners never explain, because most of them don't understand it themselves. Now, stay with me on this, because this changes how you see everything. Now, one of the biggest frustrations people have with energy healing is this: inconsistency. And sometimes something shifts instantly. You leave a session and your whole world looks different. Old fear dissolves, clarity appears from nowhere, and you feel genuinely like something has really moved. And then other times, nothing. Nothing at all. Absolutely nothing. Same healer, same intention, same openness. Nothing. Is that you? And when that happens, people do what humans always do when something doesn't work. They blame themselves. Was I too blocked? Was I not open enough? Did I do something wrong? Is my trauma too deep? I'm beyond healing. I've heard every version of that self-doubt from hundreds, if not thousands of people over 20 years. And here's what I want you to hear clearly. The problem is not you. That's right. The problem is that most healing approaches are working on the symptom, the image, the thing you can see on the surface. And it's completely missing the pattern underneath that is generating the reality in the first place. Because the pattern lives inside what I call the human hologram. Now, here's the biggest misunderstanding in the energy healing world. People think that healing is about removing something. It's about clearing it, releasing it, like pulling a weed out. Sometimes it is. But here's the problem with that approach. If the pattern in the soil is still there, the weed just comes back. It just goes back every single time. And I've seen people do years of healing work, genuine, they're really sincere, they're committed to the work. But the same pattern shows up again and again. Different relationship, same dynamic, different job, same ceiling, different body symptom, same root. Because they were working on the projection, not the projector. Now, think of it like this. Your life, your relationships, your health, your money, even your opportunities. The patterns that keep repeating, that is the image being projected onto the screen. But behind the image is a projector. It's running quietly. It's generating the reality that you're experiencing. Now, most healing works on the screen, on the image. It tries to change what you're seeing. Yeah, hologram healing works on the projector. on the pattern generating the image. And that is the difference between healing that sticks and healing that doesn't. It really is. Because you're not just a physical body having a spiritual experience. You're a multi-layered energetic system with 4 distinct bodies operating simultaneously. And a distortion in any one of them ripples through all 4. And this is why healing one layer alone never lasts. It doesn't. The pattern just regenerates from the layers that haven't been touched. The first body is the physical hologram. The body itself, vitality, symptoms, physical manifestation. This is where most people start. It's the most visible, the most measurable. But it's almost never the origin point. It's the last place the pattern arrives. Chronic fatigue, recurrent illness, persistent pain. These are not purely physical problems with physical solutions. They're energetic patterns, distortions that have been dense enough to show up in the body. And by the way, sometimes it can take years for it to show up in the body. Yeah. The second body is the emotional hologram. Now, the emotional energy field, feelings, relational patterns, boundaries even, the way that you give and receive. This is where most healing focuses. And it matters because it's still not always the source. When the body is distorted, you give everything out and have no structure to receive. You absorb other people's energy and call it empathy. You burn out and wonder why. Trust me, I know. I had 3 burnouts. I wish I knew all this now whilst I was going through the 3 burnouts. I really do. The third body is the mental hologram, the thought field, the belief systems, the identity, the narrative running underneath everything that you do. Now, this is where I'm not enough lives and where it regenerates from, even after deep emotional release work. Mental hologram distortions are why people can have a profound breakthrough in a session and still not change their behavior 2 weeks later. It's mental, isn't it? And the fourth body, this is the one most healing never reaches. This is the energetic blueprint, the deepest layer, the soul mission, the life contracts, the original pattern, the other 3 bodies about around. This is the projector. This is what generates the image. And when this layer is recalibrated, everything else shifts faster, more permanently, with far less effort than people expect. Now, these 4 bodies are not separate systems. They're one connected hologram, and every single person has them. A distortion in the blueprint generates patterns in the mental field. The mental field shapes the emotional manifest, the physical. And that's why healing the physical alone never lasts. You have to work the whole system, especially if you've got the spiritual hologram as well. This is when we feel really disconnected and we're disconnected from our own source energy. There's a loneliness here. We don't know our purpose, our mission, everything like that. It's mad how it all works. Now, think about this. I had a client who was hitting the same wall repeatedly. Different circumstances, identical pattern. I had a client who had something from her childhood, it was a sexual abuse from her childhood, had occurred. And a member of her family, who she was very close to, found out about it because it was by a member of her family. And basically, what happened was she just didn't know what to do. She did that energy of shame, disgust, guilt, all the rest of it all came up. And she was kept going through the pattern. This pattern, it keeps showing up in different places. And what we actually did was, to get to the core, we had to go into the blueprint layer. And what I mean by that is we had to go right to the source of where that imprint, that distortion of the shame, the guilt, everything that was around there was in her energy field. And I remember her saying to me, "Oh my God, Anne, what's happening? I just feel like there's something getting pulled out of me." It was like her description of it was, it's as if there's just this big black energy coming out of me. Now, this doesn't happen to everybody. This is just one example I'm talking about. And that woman's life changed. It wasn't a dramatic change. It was just peace. After it, she looked like 20 years younger. Her energy was such a peaceful energy. When she walked in to see me, she looked like she'd aged 20 years, with the worry, with the stress, with the anxiety that was going in the psychological, in the thinking pattern, but it was also in the emotional. And it was actually in each of her holograms. The spiritual, she'd lost her connection. The emotional, the shame and the guilt were wrapped around this distortion. The frustration was even there. The psychological, she kept having this loop going round of the actual incident that had happened, which was just going bigger and bigger in her energy field. Her physical body, what actually happened within her physical body is she was eating loads. So there was a lot of pain coming in within the physical body, but she didn't know why, you know? But after doing and clearing those distortions, there was a huge shift, to the point that if you've seen her now to seen her then, she's like a completely different person. Not only did she lose loads of weight, but she also looked so much younger. Now, was she pushing for that? No, it just, we cleared the distortions, the patterns that were within her hologram energy fields. Now, and how do I know this? I've been in business for 30 years nearly. I used to be a bridal designer, and I would have people coming in, tantrums, tears, control dynamics playing out in the fitting room. You weren't making dresses, you were mapping energetic patterns across thousands of people. And that's really, when I think about it, even all my trainings, my masters in psychology and my energy trainings and working with real shamans and Rinpoches and Native Americans and, oh, you name it, druids, high level trainings. When I think about it, I was actually doing that back then. It was not in a classroom, it was in a fitting room where I was looking at those patterns. I remember my hands would really come out, the heat would come out, and people, I would get the sense that maybe there was a cancer patient there. They didn't have to say anything. And I would just feel, just even me saying this, I can feel the heat coming out of my hands to help. And I wouldn't say anything. I would just guide the energy. And I would see where the distortions were. And then a few fittings later, they would tell me there was cancer. Now, how did I know that? It was just, I was able to see these things. Yeah. And that's what over 30 years of work's taught me. Your life is not random, it's patterned. Yeah. Everything that you keep experiencing, the patterns that repeat, the ceilings that you keep hitting, the relationships that keep reflecting the same thing back to you. And by the way, I'm human too, I have my patterns too. None of it is happening by accident. It really isn't. It's coming from a pattern inside your holograms that hasn't been identified yet. And the moment it is identified, the moment that you stop trying to fight the image on the screen and start working with the projector, things just start to shift. That generally, they really surprise people. And not because it's magical, because you finally stopped working against yourself. This is what hologram healing actually does. It doesn't remove something from you, it returns something to you. Because the original pattern, the one underneath all the conditioning, all the trauma, all the stories you've been carrying, the one that's always there, when people begin working with the hologram instead of against it, things shift in ways that last. The pattern, it stops regenerating because the blueprint generating it has been recalibrated. Old ceilings dissolve, not through force or hustle or willpower. God, trust me, I've tried all that. But through alignment, relationships change. Not because the other people change, but because the pattern you were bringing into them changed. The body starts cooperating because it's no longer carrying the density of an unresolved energetic pattern. And most importantly, you stop feeling like you're broken or you need fix, because you were never broken. The pattern was just distorted, and that is a completely different thing. Now that you understand what hologram healing actually is, and this is just a wee bit I'm giving you here, it's not a gift. It's certainly not luck. And it's not something that works sometimes and not others. It's a precise, structured way of identifying and recalibrating the pattern that is generating your reality. Now, if this landed for you, if something in this video names something that you've been experiencing and you just couldn't explain it, I want to invite you over to come and join the Spiritual Awakening Academy. It's my free community on skill. It's where I go deeper in all this, the Oracle Code, the hologram model, the practical work of living and leading from this understanding. Links in the description below. Come and find us. We have over 500. It's a new community, but it's an amazing community. Remember, guys, your life is not random. It's patterned. And once you know how to read it, everything changes.